Hello guys, it's been a long time since I've actually done a video. So today's video is a basic insights. It's a past paper walkthrough for the subject information and communication technology. This is a paper 1 and the exam board is Cambridge. The code for this paper is 0417/12. It's the October-November 2023 series and it's for 1 hour 30 minutes. Hopefully I know these concepts will be asked for you guys in your exams. So I know many of you guys have this paper coming up for exams. So hopefully this video has helped you all to understand these type of concepts. If you guys have enjoyed the video, please do like, share, and subscribe. The channel really helps a lot. And yeah, let's start with the video. All right. So what we have to do here is we have to answer all the questions. Okay, we're just gonna push it that side. Okay. What you're gonna do is you're gonna answer all the questions. You have to use a black or dark blue pen. Remember to bring a black pen in your exam. You're going to use that. Write your name, center number, and candidate number. Do write those things. Write your answer to each question in the space provided. You may use HB pencil for any diagrams. The total mark for this paper is 80. Okay. Let's start with the first question. All right. So the first question is tick one external device. So out of these 4 choices, we have to choose one which is an external device. A sound card is more of an input, so it's not an external. Sorry, it's more of an inside device, internal device. Pen drive is an external device. That's what you use externally. A motherboard, this is inside a laptop. A ROM is also inside a laptop. In this case, laptop or desktop. I'm assuming, yeah, it's in both. But out of all of this, sound card, motherboard, and ROM, they're all internal devices. Whereas pen drive is something that you use. It's like how you guys use the Apple Pencil. That's more of an external device, but not an internal device. So in this case, it's going to be pen drive. Okay, tick within the box. Now, next question is a computer system uses both analog and digital data. Explain what is meant by these type of data. Analog data. So now analog data, for example, is more like how do you say it? To describe it, for 1 mark, you can mention that it's more of a continuous data. Okay? It's more of a continuous data. You can also mention that it has any values. It has some certain values within range. Digital data is more of discrete data. Okay? It's more of discrete data. You can also mention that it's form of like binary data between zeros and ones. Okay, binary digits, binary values. Digital data is processed in a computer system. Sometimes digital data needs to be converted to analog data. Explain why digital data may need to be converted to analog data. Now, this is one of the reasons is because humans can only understand analog data. Computers understand zeros and ones. So that could be one of the reasons why they have to convert it. But in this case, what we're going to do is the reason why we are converting the digital data into analog data is because it's processed in the computer system. So you can mention that it has to be sent to an actuator, or it has to be to control an external device. So to control an external device. Okay, we're going to mention that for 1 mark. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Okay, next question. Use the most appropriate phrase from the list to complete the sentences. Your answers must be different. Analog data is given to you. Some options. A motor is used to. Okay. A motor is used to, here in this case, is to open the windows. Is to open the windows in a greenhouse. Is to open the windows in the greenhouse. A DAC output, okay. Digital analog converter is used for analog data. Hopefully that's right. Analog data. Sensor is used to, of course. In this options, a sensor is something that detects something, so it's to measure, in this case it's to measure acidity levels in a river, to measure acidity levels in a river. Okay, we're just going to use the eraser tool here. Put that in capital. Okay, just do write in caps. Very important. Open. Measure acidity levels in a river. Okay. In a river. Okay, that's for 3 marks total. Next question. Identify 3 different network communication devices and describe what each one does. So 3 network communication device. What we know is we know of the router, so that could be device 1. And one of the description for 1 mark here is a router is used to, it allows, we can mention that it allows a LAN, okay, it allows a LAN to be connected to the internet, That's one of the purposes of a router. Okay, you can mention the other purposes is that it allows data packets to be sent to the LAN or the WAN, in this case wide area network or local area network. You can mention that. The device 2 could be the hub. Now the hub, we can mention the description about hub is it's used to connect computers or let's say devices so that data can be broadcasted to different devices. It kind of like expands a local area network in this case. So what we can mention in this case is that it connects computers. It connects computers so data can be broadcasted or broadcast to all devices. And it kind of like expands a a local area network in this case. Expands a local area network. Device 3 could be a bridge. The description for this is that it connects 2 LANs together. It connects 2 LANs together of the same protocol. Together. You can also mention that a bridge creates a single LAN from separate parts. Another device you can mention here in this case is switch. Now a switch is used to connect computers together to form a LAN, or you can mention that it allows data to be sent in individual devices. Okay? Your next question is, okay, now this is related to databases, so hopefully that's another topic that you guys have. Teacher is creating a database. Teacher types the details of each book in a database. You have some form of information here in the table. Identify and describe a validation check based on the data shown in the database table, which could be applied to the data as it is entered into each of these fields. Each validation check must be different. So for a book number, what we're going to use is, since book number is numerical values here in this case, we're going to be using a length check, or you can mention a character check or RAND check or a presence check. So in this case, we're just going to mention a length check. Okay. Now why I mentioned that length check is because each data item, as you can see that there are 4 digits in each of these examples. So you're going to say that each data item must be exactly 4 characters long. Okay? Now data acquired. Now you can see the table for data acquired here. What we're going to use is, you can use a format check since we have to format the date, or you can use a range check again. So in this case, we're just going to be using a format check since that's most appropriate to use here. It has to be in this form as one with slashes, and it should be in all that same format. So what we're going to write here is that the first 2 numbers, right? The first 2 numbers followed by a slash, then next to 2 numbers, okay, followed by a slash, then 4 numbers, okay, as you have seen in the table. okay, and it should be in this format. Okay, you can mention that this is what you can see in your computers as well. ISBN. Okay, ISBN numbers, you can see that. What do we use here? We can use a check digit, okay, or you can use a character check that the data must be an integer, but in this case we're going to be using a check digit. Okay, check digit is because the number is checked by calculation of all the separate numbers. Okay, that could be the reason why we use that. The number is checked by calculation. Is checked by calculation of all the separate numbers. All the separate numbers. Okay. You can mention a character check that the data must be an integer. Okay, whole numbers in this case, but yeah, integer values are fine. Okay, so for question number 5, a group of pupils is planning to create a newsletter for a history project. The group can either use a smartphone or a phablet computer. Explain what is meant by a phablet computer. So now, this is a new terminology, the phablet computer. It's more like a, let's say, it's more like a mixture between a smartphone and a tablet hybrid. So that's something that you guys can mention there. In that case, you can mention that it's more of a smartphone and tablet hybrid. Okay, and you can mention that it's like a device that has the features of both a smartphone and tablet computer. You can mention that, and you can also mention that the size of the device size is in between a smartphone and a tablet. Discuss the advantages and disadvantages of using a phablet computer rather than a smartphone for this project. So this question is for total 6 marks. So what we have to mention is, let's mention the advantages first. So the advantages of using a phablet computer rather than a smartphone for this project. For 6 marks, you're just going to list 3 advantages and 3 disadvantages. Okay, so that's keep it spread out like that. So you can mention that a phablet has a larger screen. Okay, has a larger screen size, so it is easier to read the text. Or you can mention it's easier to navigate or click on the icons and edit certain types of text. That's some other answers you guys can write. Then you can write that it has a better control over the layout of the screen. Okay, and you can also mention that it's easier to connect devices on a phablet. Onto a phablet. Okay, onto a phablet. Now, some of the disadvantages that you have to mention of a phablet computer is that it's less portable than a smartphone. Now, the reason why this is less portable than a smartphone is because the size is between smartphone and a tablet computer. So that's why it's like a mixture of both. Like we said, it's like a hybrid between a smartphone and a tablet. So the size would be much more bigger than a smartphone itself. That's why it would be less portable than a smartphone. Okay. Then it's more difficult to record audio messages. Let's say audio messages. more difficult to record audio messages onto due to its size. Okay. And you can mention that if cameras are to be used, okay, if cameras are to be used, you can mention that it's easier with a smartphone, like how everybody uses it. Then it's easier. Okay, to use a camera. With a smartphone. Okay. Question number 6. Many teachers use multimedia projectors in their lessons. State 2 issues related with the use of multimedia projectors. So you can mention this one, okay, and you can mention this. These are some of the points that you can mention. State 2 safety issues associated with the use of multimedia projects. You can mention that tripping over cable wires, tripping over trailing cables is one of the most common points to write. You can mention the projector on the presenter. Okay. You can mention this as well. All right. Next question. A video of a race can be recorded using a camera, either on an autonomous flying vehicle, such as a drone, or in a helicopter. A person would be needed in the helicopter to operate the camera. Describe 2 advantages and 2 disadvantages of using autonomous flying vehicle drone to record the video of the race. So 2 advantages and 2 disadvantages. 2 advantages, it would be that it's cheaper. Actually, one of the advantages would be it's cheaper to use a drone, right? Since it's a small thing, it's cheaper to use a drone rather than using a helicopter. Rather than using a helicopter. Now, the other advantage is that the drone could fly more closer to the competitors than a helicopter. That's because of the size. Again, the small size of a drone is giving it a lot of advantages while recording, so the drone could fly closer. In this case, the drone could fly closer. Okay. Drone could fly closer to the competitors. Than a helicopter. Okay. Than a helicopter. Disadvantage 1 is that the range of the drone may be smaller. The range of the drone may be smaller. Okay. Disadvantage 2 is that it can fly at a range and lose control signal. It could, it can fly out of range and lose control signal. Okay. Question number 8. State the most appropriate storage medium from this description. A storage medium that stores the data on the internet. This would be cloud storage. Okay. The internal storage where the current instruction is stored. This would be random access memory. Random access memory, also known as RAM. You can write that as well. RAM. A solid state storage that is used in digital cameras. This would be the flash memory. You can mention that. Flash memory in this case. Memory card, you can mention that. An optical storage medium that stores high definition HD movies. This would be a Blu-ray disc. Okay. Next question. Next question. A hospital administrator enters data from medical forms in a database. Validation and verification are both used when entering data to minimize errors. Explain what is meant by validation and verification and why they're both needed in this scenario. So this is for total 6 marks. You're going to write 3 points from actually we have to write 2 points from validation and 2 points from verification, or either 3 points from either both. In this case, so what we're going to mention here is that validation, okay, validation is an automatic computer check. Okay, 2 points for validation is an automatic computer check, and it ensures that data entered fits the set criteria. Okay, data entered fits the set criteria. Okay, that's 2 points for validation. Now for verification, it checks that the data, on the original source document, is identical to data that you have entered in the system. Like basically whatever you input, it's validated with the original check copy of that. That's how verification is. Whatever data you input, it just checks it with the data which is already downloaded or processed somewhere. So yeah, it says identical to the data that you have entered into the system. Okay, and one of the benefits is that verification, right, ensures that data is entered correctly. It's more like how you guys save passwords. Once you type in your password, like they ask you for an input of your password, then you save that password. Then once you log in again in that system, it verifies whether you have entered the right password. That's because it stores the data of your password in the system itself. So that's more like a form of verification. Now the other points is the reason why they both are needed. Okay, now we have to answer that. 2 points we answer for validation, what validation is, and the other 2 points we answer for what verification is. Now we have to write at least 3 points, okay, for why both are needed in this scenario. Now both are needed is because okay, you're gonna write it like this: both are needed because it is personal data. It's personal data, and that data needs to be correct. And if the data is incorrect, it could lead to consequences. That could be another point you can mention. And you should mention that data should be error-free to ensure that the patients are safe. And you can mention that individually they cannot detect all errors. Okay, individually they cannot detect all errors, so they cannot do that in that case. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Next question is, the manager of a Tavara hotel has decided to computerize the hotel's room booking system. The new booking system will allow customers to book rooms online using an app on their smartphones. The manager has employed a systems analyst who will carry out research into the current system by examining existing documentation and completed questionnaires from staff. One item of information that systems analyst will need to identify is problems with the current system. State 3 other items of information that the system analyst will need to identify. 3 points. What we're going to write is the hardware requirements. You can mention that. Hardware requirements. Then you can mention that the user requirements. Okay, user requirements for the new system. Then you can mention the information requirements for the new system. Information requirements, okay? Information requirements for the new system, okay? For the new system. Next question. Following the analysis, the systems analyst will implement the new system using either parallel running or direct changeover. Evaluate these different methods of implementation. So this is 6 points. So what you're going to do is you're going to write 3 points from parallel running and 3 points for direct changeover. So we're just going to mention parallel running, what that is. Okay, you guys have to know the definitions. Is parallel running is that the data would need to be, actually, let's erase that. Data would need to be entered twice, okay, and this could cause issues with double booking, okay. All right, so we're just gonna keep that there. With double booking, what else can we mention? Is that in parallel running, okay, a system is always in place. You can also mention that parallel running is more expensive. Parallel running is more expensive to operate, okay, as there are two sets of staff operating it, okay, or two systems operating. So that's at least 3 points for parallel running. Now direct changeover. What is direct changeovers? Is that they indirectly change the whole system immediately. So you can mention that this would be a faster method of implementation, full implementation, okay, full implementation, as the hotel will not want the system to be out of use. Will not want the system to be out of use, okay. It has immediate benefits. You can mention that it has immediate benefits. You can elaborate more on that. And you can mention that no system will be in place during the changeover. Okay, these are some of the points that you can mention for this type of question for both parallel running and direct changeover. Next question. Describe the benefits and drawbacks of using an online booking system. 5 marks. You can mention the benefits. You can split actually the benefits. So you can mention 3 benefits and 2 drawbacks, or you can do the reverse. You can mention 2 benefits and 3 drawbacks. But in this case, we have to mention both the benefits and the drawbacks of using an online booking system. So the benefits of using an online booking system is that it's available 24/7. So meaning it's available throughout the whole day, actually. So it's available 24/7. Therefore, it helps customers to book what they want at whatever time, to book when they want the tickets. Like you can book it in the night, you can book it in the morning, anytime. It has fewer problems, okay? Fewer problems with bookings, okay? With bookings or double bookings in this case. Then you can mention that it's easier to cancel. Okay, easier to cancel / change bookings. Now, some of the drawbacks in this case is that it needs internet access for all this to work. It needs internet access, okay, for all of it to work. And there could be some security issues security issues, due due to fraud, or due to others seeing personal data. Okay. Some of the other drawbacks that you can mention is that it relies on telecommunications to make the bookings, or wrong information may be added accidentally, and this may be difficult to correct. For one of the benefits, you can mention that it's a faster booking system, as people don't need to wait in queues, and it's immediate confirmation of the booking. That could be another benefit in this case. So that could be some of the other points. Let's move on to the next question. Okay. A hotel uses both a WAN and a VLAN, wide area network and wide local area network. Describe the difference between a WAN and a VLAN. Okay, hopefully that's the right way of pronouncing it. Sorry, VLAN is not wide local area network. Sorry, it is the wireless local area network. Okay, sorry about that. So for WAN, it just stands for, you can just mention that it stands for wide area network. Okay, you can mention, since this is 4, you have to mention 2 points from WAN and 2 points from VLAN. And it tends to use satellite technology. Okay, you can mention that. Tends to use satellite technology. And also this point is very important, right, for WAN, by the way. We can write that it's used over a large geographical, it's used over a large geographical area use. Okay. And for VLAN, VLAN, it stands for wireless local area network. Okay. Wireless local area network. And WAN stands for wide area network, and VLAN stands for wireless local area network. This covers the hotel site. You can also mention that it uses wireless technology. Okay. All right. Let's move on to the next question. Next question is, a clothing retailer only sells its clothes on the internet. Discuss the benefits and drawbacks to the clothing retailer of using internet shopping. So remember, we have to list only 3 benefits and 3 drawbacks. Okay. Some of the benefits is that it saves cost of having a store. Okay, cost of having a store. You can mention that saves cost, as there's less staff needed, so there's less staff required in this case. And also large customers. Okay, large customer base, so therefore it increases the profits. Some other benefits you can mention, that it saves cost of rent, insurance, utilities cost, businesses rates. You can mention that. You can also mention that the selling is not limited to the shop opening hours, so therefore, like, we can see that there's an increase in the sales. So that's some of the other benefits you can mention. Now we have to mention 3 drawbacks about this, is that it's reliant on technology. Like, the whole system is built on the technology interface itself, and it operates 24/7. Right? So it operates 24/7, therefore increased overheads. Okay, therefore increased overheads. Therefore it increases the overheads. That's the right way of saying it. And it relies on customers that only shop online. So they have to be in the online user interface experience to experience the online shopping phase. So they actually have to have some form of online experience in order to use this kind of system to buy more like the clothing retailer to sell the clothes on the internet and to buy the clothes from the clothing retailer. The other drawbacks is that it needs a large warehouse space distribution system in this case, and there's increased cost since more staff is needed to operate the website. So it has both the benefits and the drawbacks. It just seems to counterweight balance both. Let's move on to the next question. Next question is: a customer is purchasing some new clothes from this retailer. Describe the steps that the customer would take when purchasing the new clothes from the internet shopping. So you can mention the steps is that the customer loads up the website. You can mention that the customer loads up the website. Okay. Loads up. Let me just write that properly. The customer loads up the website, sets up an account. Okay, sets up an account. That's the second point. Sets up an account. He logs into the website. That's another point. Logs into the website. Enters a password. You can mention that. Enters a password. Okay. And browses. Okay, and browses through the online catalog. Okay. You can also mention that he clicks on the items required. He enters the quantity, color, size of the items. He adds items to the virtual basket in this case. And then he clicks on the virtual checkout, chooses the payment method, and then he chooses the delivery method, adds a payment, checks the details, enters, and then finally logs out of the system. These are some of the 5 points, or more than 5 points you guys can mention. But just keep the basic form of explanation is that the customer loads up the website, sets up an account, logs into the website, enters a password, and then browses through the online catalog. This is something for 5 points that you guys can mention in this case, okay? Let's move on to the next question. Next question is that the manager of the sports club is designing an online form for members to enter their personal details. The form must be accessible to all members of the club. State 4 characteristics of a good form design. Okay, for a good form design, it needs to be clear and visible labels. Okay, clear and visible labels for each field. Okay. Then it should be easy data entry. Okay. And the font size. Actually, you can mention that the font size needs to be visible. The font size should be large enough. To read. Okay, people are going to read that. So it should be large enough to read. And you should mention that it should have use of navigation buttons. Use of navigation buttons. Or like you can mention drop down boxes in this case. Or you can mention like radio buttons. So use of navigation buttons, drop down boxes, and radio buttons. You can mention that. Then you can also mention basically why we're saying use of navigation buttons as a fourth point is because this is a very important thing to have in their own good form design thing. They should have use of navigation buttons, drop down boxes, and radio buttons because it makes it more friendly for the user to use, makes it more user friendly. You can also mention that they should use of sensible error messages. They should also mention some use of help buttons like you guys get in some websites. Then they should also mention some form of good use of white spaces in this case, and the language that's being used should be simple to understand. Those are some other 4 characteristics of a good form design, okay? Next question, state 2 characteristics of good form design that will help users with visual impairment to enter the data. Okay, now for this one, it's everything doing visually, right? So they should have buttons, like we mentioned previously.
The buttons should be large enough to see. And the font size is large enough. It's large enough to read. You guys can also mention that there should be use of high contrast colors. There should be use of voice entry or use of text to speech. You guys can also mention those points as well. And yeah, this seems to be the end of the paper. If you guys have enjoyed the video, please do like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It really helps a lot. And do comment below what your thoughts are about this video. And yeah, I think that's it. All right, bye guys.